I'm here today with Paul Scanlan, who is the President of Business and Network Consulting at Huawei. Paul, welcome. A lot of talk, a lot of interest these days around customer experience management within the network operators. Why is that?
I think it is, Tony, probably for two reasons. You'll have seen now that the partners, especially the partners in the OTT play, are becoming more dominant in an operator's business. So the ecosystem is now including partners and the experience that subscribers have in using partner-based applications is now affecting the entire ecosystem of customer experience. So operators are now having to rethink about how to include the partners in the CEM. I think the second part is they all have recognized, on sort of a cyclic basis, how much the CEM plays in customer acquisition and customer retention. It's always costing them more money. They're recognizing now that the acquisition cost is significant as the ARPU starts to drop. So it's becoming, it's being addressed, as I say, sort of more cyclically, especially as some of the CMOs and the CEOs and CTOs are working a little more closely together.
Can communication service providers actually monetize CEM? And if so, how?
There's no doubt that people will pay if the experience is better. I've given some examples before where through perceived indifference, customers will churn. So just that that's a loss of revenue, how to make more money. If you look at customer experience, we believe and we see significant trends that show that subscribers who have a better experience are prepared to spend more, a little bit more. More importantly, through word of mouth, the internal soft selling approach is significant in terms of upsell. And I think these two areas are where operators are realizing they can monetize the experience.
What do you think are the main challenges the network operators face in getting customer experience management right?
This is tough. We see I think there are 6 components in the CEM space of trying to improve the experience end-to-end as part of the service design of a product go-to-market through to when the customer finally gets his bill. The 2 most important, in my opinion, are how the organization treats customer experience. You see, it almost becomes personal. People can't just say, I work for a company and we have a customer experience management program. They have to believe it intrinsically. The organization has to believe it. The strategy, the tactics that are used by the CXOs all the way down to the middle and junior layers, they all have to live and breathe customer experience. They need to want people to come to their network, to buy their products, to have a great experience, to say, I love using this network or I love using this product. They have to do that. So that's the first one that's very difficult. It's people, it's cultural change. The second area is, where do operators spend their money? Traditionally, it's easier to say, let's build an LTE network, let's build an FTTX network. They're tangible things. I can tick a box, put a cross, build it, it achieves KPIs. But how do customers share in the experience? It's a small component, call drops, throughput, not the entire ecosystem of the customer life cycle. So I think where they ought to be addressing and spending more money is in the second part, which is not just a cultural component, but the CRM systems, the product go-to-market, the billing systems, how customers interact with the operators and the service providers. This whole thing needs to be considered as an ecosystem. And I think the operators are spending a lot of money on the technology and getting the network performance and quality of service right. They're spending some money in lots of buckets, maybe in a CRM or in a billing system, in the expectation that they'll improve it. But largely, they're not spending enough money in this ecosystem as they are, say, in the technology domain.
And that leads me into the part that really is of interest. How is the investment in customer experience management actually justified?
It always has to come back to dollar spent, so return on investment. Where do I spend $1? Where do I get my return from, and how much is the return? If I spend more money in the technology domain, if I spend more money in process re-engineering, where will I expect to see better customer retention, customer value? So CXOs, the entire CXO team, needs to be, and is starting to think more, as you mentioned in your first question, Tony, they need to be thinking about what's the entire ecosystem of customer experience management, the data analytics, the customer database. It's a whole ecosystem, not just about a customer calling and speaking to an operator and saying, I've got a problem, or I want to buy a new product, or can you tell me about something? They need to really look at every dollar they invest in the ecosystem and what's its direct return, because everything comes down to shareholders' money.
Paul, thanks for answering those questions and helping me understand better the value of customer experience management. Thank you.
My pleasure, Tony. It's always great to help.